Huh? You're on the second duty. That's fine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the school committee meeting of Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. Seeing nothing under items 1 or 2, without any objections from my colleagues on the committee, I'd like to move item A under item 6 under old business to the front of our agenda this evening so that we can have our scheduled discussion and update on COVID protocols. Any issues from the committee or questions about that? Okay, Dr. Cron.
Do you want to go sit?
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and sit in the front row there, guys.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jane Hackett, Assistant Superintendent for Rockland Schools. I'm here to provide an update since we last met on our COVID protocols. Okay, sorry. It's not projecting in here. It's going into the, better? Can folks hear me now? Hello. All right. All right, so today, this afternoon, at approximately 3:30, the Commissioner of Massachusetts issued a mask mandate effective immediately for public school students age 5 and above and staff in all grades are required to wear masks indoors in schools, except as noted below. Masks are not required when outdoors. It is strongly recommended that students younger than age 5 also wear a mask in school. All visitors are also expected to wear a mask in buildings. The mask requirement will be in place until at least October 1st of 2021. I do have copies here if anyone is interested in the full guidance that was released from the department, the commissioner this afternoon. So this is our current vaccination ratio in Massachusetts. It's released every Thursday by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The significant number for us would be the individuals with at least 1 dose, and it's broken down by age group. Right, so right now we're at 52% for 12 to 15, 69 to 16 to 19, 57% for 20 to 29-year-olds, and you can continue to go down for a total vaccination rate in the town of Rockland of at least 1 dose of 65% of the eligible population. We are holding clinics, again, this is our second round of clinics. We are holding first shot clinics, Pfizer vaccines this Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. and this Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. at the Rogers Middle School in the main cafeteria. At the same time, we'll be administering the second shots from the first vaccination clinic that we held. Because vaccines need to be ordered and preserved and ready for delivery, signups do need to end tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, and the portal will be closed off for signups. If you're interested in vaccination and unable to attend this, virtually most pharmacies in the area do have vaccination walk-in availability. Ours is open to anyone over the age of 12 years old. The shots will be administered by South Shore Hospital personnel, and it will be the Pfizer vaccine. And you can check, the email went out to the entire Rockland Public Schools community, and the dates do coincide with DESI's timeline for vaccination by 10/1. So anyone who were to participate in this vaccination clinic and receive their second shot would be fully vaccinated at the October 1st date set by DESI for review. So as school opens, we have a narrowed definition of close contacts from where we were last year. And what's going to be important here in distinguishing is close contact versus testing and quarantine requirements and guidance. Because you can be a close contact but not have to go through certain protocols. So the definition of a close contact is an individual who has been within 6 feet of a COVID positive individual while indoors for at least 15 minutes during a 24-hour period. The at-risk exposure time begins 48 hours prior to the symptom onset for the COVID positive individual, or 48 hours from the administration of a test if that individual was asymptomatic. Close contacts should follow the testing and quarantine protocols. However, certain close contacts are exempted from both testing and quarantine response protocols. Those exemptions are: if you are asymptomatic and fully vaccinated, if you are defined as a close contact, you do not have to go through any testing or quarantining protocols. If you are a classroom close contact, if you are masked and you're spaced 3 feet apart, you are not subject to testing or quarantining. If you're on a bus, if you're masked and the windows are open, you are not subject to testing and quarantine. All of this, you'd have to be asymptomatic as well. People who have had COVID-19 within the past 90 days are also exempt from testing and quarantining. For those who are subject to testing and or quarantining, we're in an effort to keep students in school, we are implementing the Test and Stay program that has been sponsored by the Commonwealth. Close contacts that are subject to testing and quarantine can continue to come to school under the following conditions. 1, they continue to be asymptomatic. 2, they wear masks in school except for when they're eating and drinking. And then every morning they take a rapid antigen test and receive a negative result. They have to actively monitor for symptoms through day 14. You need to participate in the Test and Stay program for 5 days. And you can participate in all school activities, including athletics, and we will have testing capability on the weekends for those sports that have practices and or games on weekends. We also will continue our existing PCR program, which is the testing that we're doing through South Shore Hospital and the Broad Institute, and is administered by our nurses. This will be 7 days a week as well. This is for symptomatic individuals, folks who have someone at home who's not feeling well. We will test anyone for free, and we do that 7 days a week. Tests are usually returned the following morning. There's been some change in the courier time, so we were getting them around 6 o'clock in the morning. We're hopeful that that's going to stay the same as we open up the school year, but the courier service changes next week. And again, this is offered 7 days per week, and that can be arranged through the individual building nurse. The quarantine guidelines: you can be required to quarantine if you're a close contact and you refuse to participate in the Test and Stay program, then you will not be able to come to school activities. In order to return to school activities, you must test negative on day 5, 6, or 7 from your last known exposure, and then you can return to school on day 8. However, you have to continue to self-monitor for symptoms for 14 days. Just sort of some additional COVID information. We do have an abundance of PPE, and hand sanitizer is available at all of our buildings. We have purchased air purifiers for all of our classrooms. Fresh air and circulation will be introduced wherever feasible, and the COVID questions can be directed to the building nurse or to myself, and there's my email address, janehackett@rocklandschools.org. And that would conclude the update, Mr. Chairman.
In just a moment, we'll be moving on to some public comment. I know that we have some folks here with us tonight, and thank you for being here with us. They feel very passionate and concerned about these issues, and rightfully so. But before we do get to that piece, we're going to move on to item 3 on our agenda, our Superintendent's Report. Dr. Cron.
Thank you. This morning we had our convocation. It's when all of our teachers come back for the first time for the school year. It was phenomenal to have nearly, I'd say, 350 people together in the auditorium. It was celebratory. I think people are excited to be back. We're looking forward to a better school year than last year. So it was an excellent opening, very, very positive. My second and final item is a reminder to all that school opens on Monday, and I'd ask that everyone give themselves plenty of time. There's going to be Definitely some traffic issues around Memorial Park with the construction, so I'd ask that you give yourself extra time and be very, very patient with one another as we open school. And just a reminder that school is for the kids, and everything we do is for the kids. So that means keeping them safe, and that means please drive carefully on Monday morning and be patient. That's all I have, Chairman.
Any questions from the committee or concerns about the committee for Dr. Cron?
No.
Okay, that being said, I want to move on to our public comments piece tonight under item 4. Just a quick rewind. This is really our first regularly scheduled school committee meeting of this school year. A week ago, Monday night, we had what was an emergency unscheduled school committee meeting because of a lot of changing information and changing dynamic in our community, in our state, and our nation based upon COVID-19 and potentially changing protocols. We wanted to make sure we called our community last week to be able to give them an update and let them know where we were, which as of a week ago Monday is that we were strongly recommending in Rockland Public Schools all staff and students to wear masks, stopping short of a mandate. Up until today at approximately 3:30, I was very comfortable with that position, and families making a choice and people being able to come to school and make the best decision for their families and for their children's health. But as we're all aware, there was some changes made today. There was a mandate made today by the Secretary of Education statewide that all staff and children K-12 in schools are mandated to wear masks. So here we are tonight, and we have some folks that are here from our community. We added public comments to our agenda because we know that there are some people that are frustrated about the way things are going, and rightfully so, and we can understand that with what's going on in the world around us, and particularly around a sensitive topic like this. It's important in our position as elected, being elected to represent you, our community, in relation to our schools, that we hear from you, and that you have the opportunity to be able to voice your concerns and to be able to share your thoughts and the directions of our school and what we're doing to, as Dr. Cron, keep people safe. So in just a minute, we're going to be inviting everybody who is wanting to be able to come forward to the podium over here if you'd like to share some comments, to be able to address the community and share any of your feelings on anything that's going on right now. We're going to be asking, in order to make sure that we have an orderly and timely meeting, that we're going to ask for a 3-minute time limit for each person when they come forward. It won't be a debate. We're not going to be back and forth sort of having an argument between us and folks here, but we want to give you the chance to talk. When you do come forward, just like at any other community meeting, like town meeting, we're going to invite you to state your name and the street that you live on here in Rockland. So without further ado, we'd like to invite anybody who might come forward, and if we just ask if you just do it in an orderly way, any order at all, you feel very welcome to please come forward and step up to the microphone.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Wandel. I live at 102 Brookside Road in Rockland. I have a 6-year-old. His name is August, and a 3-year-old. His name is Warren. August was a student last year in kindergarten at Memorial Park, and we had, to the best of our ability, a decent school year, recognizing that the ability to effectively teach in an environment that provides masking, that does not have consistent in-person learning, is not just suboptimal, it's detrimental to the ability for the student to be able to continue and integrate, learn appropriately, have peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer experiences, etc. Where I'm at is, and I'm not sure if you're reading them now, we are homeschooling. And the reason we're homeschooling is because I will never put a mask on either of my children ever again. That will never happen. And we're in an extremely fortunate and blessed position to be able to do that. We have the resources to be able to do it. I have a wife who's able to do that and execute on that. And the vast majority of people clearly don't have the ability to do that. The overwhelming evidence about the casualty rate, the virology rate, or virulency rate for students is essentially zero. We have CDC and other statistical data that backs up casualty rates, which means hospitalizations as well as deaths for the population under 20 is point. I have this here somewhere. Is point. We have 3 zeros before you get to a number. I mean, this is what we're looking at. And additionally, what we're doing is I guess I'm going to cut to the chase, because I think we have a sympathetic voice here, and I think we clearly have we're sort of in a rent-seeking scenario right now, where an organized minority is able to influence their policies and agenda on a less organized majority, and that's clearly what's happening here. We have all sorts of data, and we even have our own surveys that tell us that the majority of parents, students, etc., are in a position where they do not want restrictions based on masks, they do not want restrictions based on vaccine status, etc. So again, what I'm looking for, and what I would ask our folks to do here, and again, I'm essentially being a bit of a hypocrite here because I am homeschooling, but what I am calling for is I would love to see the position of a local organization, the local school committee here, defy this guidance. This guidance is and I appreciate the applause, but I want to keep my 3 minutes. This guidance is shoddy at best. It is not legislative in any manner. It does not have the full authority of any legislative body. These are suggestions. These are guidances. These are pieces of information that are brought down by unelected bureaucrats and don't have any teeth. I would be hard-pressed to find a Rockland police officer who's going to arrest a student or a parent who's going to show up on a public institution's grounds without a mask or without a vaccine. I mean, the mandates are enforced. Mandates are enforced on the other end of a gun. That's what mandates mean. Guidance means we have suggestions. Guidance means if you're comfortable putting a mask on your kid, terrific. I mean, honestly, terrific. If you're comfortable giving your kid a vaccine, honestly, terrific. We're talking about the ability for students to make their own choices if they're 18 years old, for parents to make their own choices, to have the bodily sovereignty over their children, to be able to execute these types of decisions. I mean, these are not difficult questions to answer. These are not difficult decisions to make. I ask you as a school committee, I ask you as parents, defy these guidance orders, whatever they are. We don't even know what they are. I mean, we have some pamphlet here stapled with 15 pieces of paper that says whatever. I mean, and I'm trying to speak as appropriately and as elegantly as I can, but it's becoming difficult to do so. The point of my story is defy these mandates, defy the ability for these folks to be able to make decisions about the bodily autonomy of our kids, and that's it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Michael Quinn. I live at 461 Pond Street. I'm a father of 6. 3 are in the Rockland Public School System, and 3 are homeschooled. I'm here today to ask the school committee, who we've elected to represent us, to do so. You put out a survey, and a minority of parents have strong feelings about having their kids masked, and they have that right to do so. The rest of them, by a large margin, either are against it or don't care. So please do not let a minority of parents dictate how the rest of us are going to raise our children. You are elected. You have the power to say no to Desi and to the commissioner. And if you won't do that, we will put somebody on the board who will. As I said, I'm a father of 6. I really don't have time to be on the school committee. I've never wanted to be on the school committee. But if you hide behind this mandate, these guidelines, then I will do everything I can to replace any one of you that I can. Yes. And then I'm coming for the administration. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
My name's Denise Henry, 83 Division Street. So here are some quotes. They are not effective in preventing general public from catching coronavirus. Surgeon General Jerome Adams. Quote, folks who don't know how to wear them properly tend to touch their faces a lot and actually can increase the spread of coronavirus. Surgeon General Jerome Adams. Quote, there is no specific evidence to suggest that wearing of masks by the mass population has any particular benefit. In fact, there is some evidence to suggest the opposite. Because of the possibility of not wearing a mask properly or fitting it properly and taking it off and all the other risks that are otherwise associated with that. Mike Ryan, World Health Organization, Health Emergencies Program Executive Director. When speaking in an email about store-bought masks, Dr. Anthony Fauci said, quote, they were really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection, end quote. Here's another one from Anthony Fauci. The typical mask you buy in a drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass right through material. It might, however, provide some slight benefit to keep out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes. So these were Anthony Fauci's released emails, so you can look that up if you haven't seen that already. In 2018-2019, more kids died of influenza in 8 months than have died from COVID in 18 months. No one ever put a mask on a child. Over 4 million children have already had COVID-19, and the death rate is 0.008, and that's almost zero. Improper immune system development. Kids need germs to build a strong immune system. Everybody knows that. Masks instill fear, and fear of getting sick, and fear of getting others sick, and I don't think that's right to do to our kids. All adults who want vaccines have received one, and a large population of kids in school have already had COVID-19, and many are vaccinated. Anyone who wants to wear a mask can wear one if it makes them feel better. And now for my personal reasons. I personally know 3 children. I know 2 of them very, very well, ages 12 and 14, that have tried to commit suicide throughout this pandemic. I personally know of 3 other kids who have suffered from depression caused by the pandemic. I've watched my own kids suffer with anxiety and headaches from masks, and I had to pull them out of school. I'm not going to sit back any longer and let adults make bad choices for my kids. Masks increase CO2 intake, and that's common sense. Masks get dirty. Kids can't see their friends, and teachers smile at them, and they're less likely to have conversation. Masks propagate fear and anxiety, and they are not effective. Anyone who gets up here in opposition will use scare tactics and say things like, I've seen what the virus can do, like the CDC and the media do on a daily basis. They try to terrify the poor parents and to scare them into covering their child's mouth and nose all day, when the facts show us that the virus is less deadly than the flu. The truth is the truth, and the truth doesn't change. The quotes I listed are the truth before the pandemic was politicized. That's what the masks are about. It's politicized. I want to remind everybody here that we are free Americans, and our Declaration of Independence reminds us that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What is liberty? Liberty is a state of being free within a society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life. What is more oppressive than covering a child's nose and mouth all day? None of this makes sense. Please do not take our right away to do what is best for our children. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Courtney Mckay, and I live at Rice Ave. I have 3 daughters. One will be entering preschool, and my kindergartner we kept home last year because I will not put a mask on her. I had a whole speech, but it's kind of already been touched upon. I just want to share a couple of things. Last year we found a homeschool pod that my daughter attended, full-time, in person, no masks, zero COVID. We didn't even have nothing, not even a symptom. It can be done. It can be done. We will do, we will do it. I just want to know what's going to happen, because my children will not be coming to school with a mask on. It's not going to happen, and they have the right to be here. They have a right to go to school. I can't make homeschooling work full-time. We just can't do it. We were very fortunate last year to be able to do it, but we can't do it full-time. So what's going to happen? My children won't wear a mask. They just won't do it, and I won't do it. So I just need to know what's going to happen. I just, we need to know what's going to happen. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted you to know that my children did go to school last year. Not in a typical school, but we did, and we had zero issues. They weren't in masks. I want to know what's going to happen. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Mark Danino, 43 Morningside Drive. I, too, had a speech, but a lot of it's already been touched on. Dan, you did a phenomenal job. You touched on just about everything I want to say. But there is one fundamental flaw that's with this entire, I call it a plandemic. The CDC itself, on its own website, has indicated that the PCR test is completely faulty. It cannot distinguish between influenza, COVID-19, or even the common cold. So all the data that everyone's making all these grand decisions on is completely faulty. So how are we making these decisions? Why are we making kids wear masks? With the death rate, as Dan pointed out, and all my other friends, it's next to zero. So I, too, am going to ask you to stand up against this mandate. But you got to understand, this is about defying tyranny. It starts here. Does anyone actually believe that they're going to stop this on October 1st? They're going to say, oh, you can take your mask off, because you know what will happen next? What will happen next is they'll say, now you have to get a booster shot if you want to keep your mask off. And they're going to keep it going and keep it going. And that's just what they've been doing. Look at the pattern. It's tyranny, and it needs to stop now. And if we don't take a stand now, they will just keep it going.
Folks, if we could
That's
just do
how it
one
works.
person speaking at a time, just so everyone can
That's how
have
this
their
is going
time.
to work. So with that said, the data is completely flawed. Defy this commissioner, whoever he is. Let's make our decisions for our kids. You have kids in the system, too. Make the right decisions. Thank you.
A little nervous, so if I stutter, I apologize. Casey Lombardo, 140 Belmont. I have a son entering middle school, a second grader, and my youngest is going to hopefully be going into the Chipmunk program. Just wanted to, a little more local, just from your last meeting, you guys said, you know, you were big and you were very uncomfortable about mandating something. Crone, that you didn't want to, if the governor wasn't going to mandate people to wear masks, that you weren't going to mandate, or you wouldn't want to. This is coming from Desi, not the governor, first. And proper face masks, you want these kids to wear masks on the CDC and Yale, not touching. So they have to take them off mask breaks and lunch. My kids are taking them off like that. It comes home green, it comes home nasty. If we're wanting them to wear them safely, there's no possible way a kindergartner, first grade, second grader can properly wear a mask. Or a 15-year-old. We've been altitude, bowling, everywhere, all summer around all these kids. But in school, they're gonna have to wear it. Gymnastics after school, play dates after school, everywhere else, but they're gonna have to wear it in school. It just doesn't make sense. And then, is this all coming from the Delta variant that has been around since July, they say? And again, nobody can differentiate the strains, right? So that's just. And then the Providence outbreak, how many people was that? 80% were vaxxed. Then that's the mask mandate. You can only take it off if you're vaxxed, but that doesn't do anything, right?
No,
Still get it, still spread it, still asymptomatic. So what's the point?
Not about safety.
Completely all over the place. I wanted to be a little bit more organized with this. I just think that we should, as someone had said before, our local numbers, we need to look at what is going on here. Make these decisions for us. If you guys do come down and say the kids do have to wear them, what's gonna happen when I refuse to send my kid in wearing one? I can't do homeschool another year. It's not beneficial for me, it's not beneficial for my children. Are they gonna get detention? Are they gonna get suspended? I went to open house today. Me and my child did not wear a mask. School nurse was cool with it, principal kinda cool with it. They can't force us. You can't take our choice away on this. You can't. If you wanna wear it, wear it. You can't take our choice away. And I apologize for being all over the place. Thank you.
Once you give your freedom away, you'll never get it back.
Yep, this is it's a slippery slope.
My name's Steve Kadeen. I live at 70 Concord Street. We have 2 kids at the Voc Tech. We also have one who's going to Calvary Academy this year because we didn't want to subject him to the public school atmosphere. And we have a 6-year-old who we're going to be homeschooling because of these very issues too. I didn't plan a speech. I hadn't even planned on being up here. My wife's probably shocked and nervous right now what's going to come out of my mouth. But you know, a couple things that you guys had on the slides up there kind of struck me. And I'm appealing to the fact that you guys say that you care for our kids. You know, you say that you care for our kids, but there's clear coercion that's in those statements. So if you really care for our kids, I would hope that you would stand up against the DC and what's being put out there. Want 80% vaccination. What kind of peer pressure is coming along with that from our kids not wearing masks, not getting vaccinated, things like that? You know, what I put in my body, my choice. You know, where has that gone to? As far as the mask go and the efficacy of the mask, I've watched several here touch the mask all night long. The second you touch that mask, it's pointless. Who's policing our kids all day long to make sure their hands aren't on the mask are being replaced, they're washing their hands before they touch the mask? What's the point? And then one last comment. You mentioned that they would have to be PCR tested. What happens in December 31st when the PCR tests are recalled? Yeah. You know, what tests are going to be resorted to then to determine that the kids aren't, you know, contagious, you know, anymore?
Vaccine will go away.
Yeah, it'll mysteriously disappear. Or as the Pfizer president this morning, you know, put itself out there, oh, it's going to become, you know, vaccine resistant, you know. So all I wanted to say is just, if you appeal to you that if you really care for our kids, like you say you care for our kids, stand up against the DC. You know, don't allow this coercion, you know, which is going to lead to peer pressure, which is going to lead to our kids feeling bad that they haven't got vaccinated, that they're not wearing masks, and they're going to feel pressured to do it. You know, the masks are ineffective. It's proven. They're breathing in their own bacteria. A year ago, I had a physical. Before my physical, I had a complete CBC. My CBC came back afterwards, and guess what? I had to wear a mask during the CBC. Guess what was elevated during my blood test? My carbon dioxide levels were off the charts. You know, how healthy is that for our kids? You care about our kids, you know, let's speak up. Let's stand up against it. And it is a mandate. It's not a law. So if our kids come to school without wearing a mask, they're not breaking the law. That's all I'm going to say.
We need to sign off on having sunblock put on our kids, but you guys can
Hi.
offer them a mask.
Paul Melanson, 99 Hingham Street. I gotta say, this is absurd. I just went to my son's orientation over at the Memorial, and I can't see anyone's faces. You can't, don't even bother looking at anyone, because you can't see their face. I don't want my son, he's 5 years old. He can't see people smile. I don't want that. This is ridiculous. I've been all over the country. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anyone sick. So this is ridiculous. That's all I have to say.
I'm Michelle Verrazzo. I live on Water Street in Rockland. I have 3 children. One is at the Votech school, one is at the middle school, and one is at Jefferson. So I wanted to approach this like I do when I walk into a restaurant and I walk in with my mask on, and then I sit down at my table and I eat my food, and I'm in a room with a bunch of strangers that I don't know. And my children walk into their classroom with the same teacher that they've had all year, the same students that they've been friends with for their whole lives, and they have to wear a mask when they're in their classroom. But I can take my mask off in the restaurant. When I sit down to eat, I can take my mask off. I walked in the door with my mask on, I sit down, I eat my food, I take my mask off. So I don't understand what this is doing to change anything, because I'm in a room at the 99 with a bunch of strangers that I don't know and I don't have my mask on, and there's no problem. So my kids are at school all the time with people that they're with all the time. They're practically like family. We don't wear masks in our house around our family. Why are they wearing masks around their teacher that is like their family, their best friends that is like their family? And I did want to know what is going to happen if I do refuse to mandate my child to wear a mask to school, because I refuse to do it. And I am at the point where I'm going to take my kids out of the school, and they've grown up here. I know that you know Evan, he played football with your son. Trinity and your son know we're in the same class together. All of my kids, 15, 12, 9, since kindergarten, they have grown up here, tight with the teachers. And I have to take my kids out of the school because I can't do this to them. And he is 15, and he is a slob. And the thing is disgusting. He is. The wall going down my hallway in my house, I have to wipe it all the time because he's constantly touching. This thing is gross. I have Darren give me that so I can wash it. It's so disgusting. He's using it to wipe sweat off of him. And then he has to wear this over his face. I don't want anybody to get sick. I don't want to spread germs. I don't. If you want to wear it, please wear it. But please don't make people wear it. Please don't do that. And can you please tell me what will happen? I need to know, because I refuse to make my children wear a mask.
So these items will be discussed after public comments. We'll address a lot of this and have
Okay,
some
thank you.
comments on, okay?
Because I refuse to put a mask on my child's face anymore. I did it all year. I went along with everything. I'm not doing it anymore.
Thank you.
Do I have to go? No, I'm just curious, on the last school committee meeting, it was just you, Dr. Khan, and you, Ms. Lizzie, that had the mask on, nobody else did. Is the reason you guys have it on now is just for show and for theater? Because I don't think you guys all fully agree that you should be sitting here with a mask on, and you would have had one on the last meeting.
They're all on video and probably
Welcome.
using it and
And
expecting children to.
Folks, just one at a time, if you wouldn't mind, just respect for the people getting up speaking. Yep.
Hi, I'm Jack, 83 Division Street, Rockland. I wasn't going to talk tonight. I was just going to let my wife do that, and that be enough. And she did a great job, I thought. I'm so impressed by everybody. So I didn't prepare anything, but what keeps coming to my mind is the street I live on is Division. And that's what we got. You got politicians in this mix, right? And from the beginning of time, they have been dividing people. Black, white, unvaccinated, vaccinated, unmasked, masked. It's about keeping you apart so you don't get along, right? This is nothing more than that. There's politicians here. There's people towing the line, right? You want them to do what's right for your kids, right? So you press them. You push them. This is the pushback they didn't want. You stand up for your rights, right? Anybody that puts a mask on because a commissioner, by the vote of 9 people, is the new authority, right, is a fool, right? We're going to stand together on this, and this crowd's only going to get bigger and more fierce, more educated, more polished, right? And all the know-it-alls, right, that are in charge of educating our kids, right, they're going to have to take those masks off, right? And start telling the truth, right? Because God's in the house.
Anyone else? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We can hear there's a lot of passion in the room, a lot of passion from here, too. Before I sort of give my comments and thoughts, I'll offer my colleagues on the committee the opportunity to make any comments that they might wish. Okay. Anyone? Okay.
Well, I would like to say, yes. So I would just like to address a few of the comments first before we start. The reason I am wearing a mask tonight is because of the new DESE guidelines that came out this afternoon. While we're still in a very unknown stance as a committee, as a community, I am just wearing a mask for my own comfort, especially since these new regulations have come out. And hopefully tonight we can come up with a final decision, move forward with a mask, without a mask. Yes, I am.
All right, well, this isn't, we're not doing debates. Thank you.
I think.
Folks, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, could please give respect to Mrs. Davidson as she's talking, please. Thank you.
So that basically, I have nothing else to add at this time. I'm sure as the meeting goes on, I will have more to say, but I would like to hear from the other members of the committee.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hennessy. I think I know quite a few of you. I love our town. I love our kids. This is a hard decision. I think of the kids that may have gotten COVID and spread it within their family and other folks. They might not have died. They might not have been on ventilators. But I know of people in Rockland that whole families have gotten it. It might not have been from a kid in school. I don't know how they got it. I'm not going into that. But I do want to say we do love the kids in Rockland. We don't want anyone to get sick. So do we be proactive or do we be reactive? What's going to happen if we have to close a school because we have an outbreak of COVID? I don't know. I guess I'm all over the place in this sort of decision. So I do have a couple questions that I'd like to hopefully address as a group when we're ready for that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say something. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate how strongly you advocate for your children. I also will say there are many people that are not in the room that advocated for their children privately to us on both sides of this. I think for me, the most important issue is how do we make sure that our kids stay in school full time? Because the most detriment that we've seen from kids is kids being at home. And for me, if masking allows us and testing allows us to keep more kids in school, that's the bottom line, because that protects all of the children in the community.
So a lot's been said here tonight. A lot's been said that I agree with, frankly. A lot's been said that I don't agree with. That's sort of what America is, right? That's what our town is. We respect each other. We disagree with each other sometimes. Up until our last meeting, this whole committee, no one made a motion to mandate masks. We all felt very similarly that we felt very uncomfortable with that at that time. Quite honestly, I feel very uncomfortable with this mandate right now. A lot of things are problematic for me in it. A lot of it's been shared tonight. One of them for me is that not so much whether masks work or not, but I'll get to that in a second, is the detriment that this might be causing a lot of children developmentally, particularly at our elementary age. I've got 3 little boys. One of them is just graduating from the elementary school this year to go into the middle school, but I've still got one who's a 2nd grader, and he's still learning to articulate, and he's still learning to read mouths, and he's learning to kind of grow up. And for me, I don't think there's enough of that being talked about, is sort of the damage that's being done to people developmentally or, just communication, okay? The other piece about it is that I think that there is maybe some confusion, maybe some mixing signals about the efficacy of masks in actually stopping transmission in a public school setting. So balancing all of these different factors, along with inconsistencies in policy. Someone talked about how when kids leave school, they're going to be going off to after-school activities. I've got 3 boys that play football. Tonight, they're at football as we speak, unmasked, bumping into each other, playing sports. So it's a little bit hard for anybody really to understand why we have to come into a building and be masked, and then we have to go out and play a contact sport and not be masked. So for a lot of reasons, I have some questions about this and concerns about this. I would very much prefer not to be wearing a mask tonight. I am wearing this mask right now because of the DESE obligation. We are right now mandated by the state of Massachusetts, no differently than we're mandated on a lot of other things. A lot of people don't like standardized testing. MCAS is mandated in the state of Massachusetts, and we have to do standardized testing. We have speed limits. We have all kinds of things that we have rules and we have laws that we need to follow. So that being said, I know that there's a lot of questions here tonight, and I'm not the expert in the room on many things. One of the things that we do have is experts in the room, particularly on education. So I would like to ask Dr. Cron and Jane a little bit about some of the questions that have been asked tonight about what this mandate actually means coming down from the state, where the power comes from to make such a mandate. I would like it if you could talk a little bit about the question that was asked tonight, what will happen if a child chooses not to wear their mask. These are a lot of issues that all of a sudden our administration and our school committee is faced with. These are really difficult things, and this is a really multi-headed problem that we're trying to address in the right way for really the, I would say the wholesome as a whole, do the best for our community, and particularly as the best for our kids. So maybe if the 2 of you could address some of those questions, if you wouldn't mind.
I think in general, the authority comes from the governor. The governor, the commissioner of education, the commissioner of education is the governor's appointee. The commissioner of education was given the authority to make this rule. We have to comply. The commissioner of education has given this mandate, just like with MCAS testing, just like the number of days that we have to be in school, just like the number of hours that we have to educate our children. They're all rules that we have to follow. There's a student handbook. If someone chooses not to comply, do you want to hear my answer?
Folks, we need to be able to have an orderly meeting. We're doing our very best to communicate, and we're doing our very best to listen, which is why we've placed this public comment on our agenda tonight. So, you know, I've asked that as the members of you folks that came forward, to respect them with their time. We're doing our best to try to answer you and discuss this. So if you would please just respect the fact that one person at a time as we talk, please.
We will enforce the law. We will enforce the policies that we were given. So you asked what would happen if you choose not to wear a mask. We will deal with that one case at a time. If we have a family who doesn't want to take MCAS, we sit down and we deal with that one case at a time. If we have someone who doesn't, I'm sorry, it's very hard.
Ma'am, we cannot, folks, we cannot, we're going to have to.
Speak if you're going to continually interrupt.
If people are going to continue to interrupt, folks, I want to have a good conversation back and forth, but if you're going to interrupt, we're not going to be able to continue with the meeting. Dr. Cron.
So we have a student handbook. We have a student handbook at all levels. The student handbook are the rules that we use to govern the school district. They are backed by law, and that's what we use to run an orderly, safe, and effective school system. We need rules. We need to comply. We need to work together. When we come together, there are 2,300 of us that go to school every day, 2,300 children that we are educating. We need rules. We do give up freedoms when we come together as a community. We do. We give up freedoms when you come through the school doors. You do it for safety reasons. And there are rules in place that allow us to run an orderly, safe, and effective school. And I would argue with anyone that the Rockland Public Schools are a highly effective public school district that you should be proud of. Now, I understand that you are unhappy about this issue, but I would ask that you compartmentalize it and you realize that there is a lot to your school district and not just this masking debate. This is about getting kids back to school and keeping them in school. So you asked what would happen if someone chooses to not wear a mask. We will deal with that one case at a time. There are rules in the handbook that allow us to exclude students from school who will not comply, but I will tell you it is not my wish to exclude ever a child from school for any reason. But I will if the safety of all other students are put in jeopardy. So there is a check and balance.
There's no facts of that there's any safety issues, there's been no COVID in children.
So, folks, there is something that we follow in any public meeting, whether it be selectmen meeting, whether it be school committee meetings, no matter what the meetings are. We all adhere by public meeting law. And the time for public comment on our agenda has passed. We are not able to discuss in a two-way fashion, debate the issues at hand. Okay? So at this point, right now, what's happening is this committee is discussing the information that's given. We are discussing.
There is no instruction on using masks. Masks are not provided. Professionals using masks are given a new mask every 20 minutes. Do you guys give masks? Do you teach the kids how to use them, or do they pick them up off their car floor before they walk in the door? This is not safe or healthy. Period.
Abandoned ship, folks.
Come on. Hold your kids. Hold on.
They're politicians. Nothing but politicians.
Disgusting.
They're towing the line. Towing the line.
And this is just the beginning.
I want to stop paying my taxes because I don't want to support this school.
Soon you guys will be out of
Betsy
job.
doesn't pay you.
No students will be here. Do the right thing.
I mean, the last thing we'll say, so it's on the record, is that I think there's a clear public, there's a public movement, it's maybe not a consensus or a majority, but you have a constituency who is asking you to represent their interests in terms of defying elements of these ordinances that don't directly contribute to the safety and well-being of children. And that's not going to go away. We understand that there are environments that need to be regulated from an appropriate perspective. I think making false equivalencies around traditional sets of rules and traditional testing is a false equivalency, frankly. I don't think it's a compelling argument. We're going to have to continue to have civilly disobedient members of the population. That's going to happen. I would suggest, rather than continuing to toe the line from a state perspective, you participate more actively with the folks who are here, who I think are representing a larger population than you think. And I would stress you, and the idea that you would support us in doing that could you imagine the type of support you would get to be able to put yourself in a position to do what's right on behalf of the students, to defy a state who doesn't have the best interest of their kids at mind? I mean, the support you would get is phenomenal, and that's unquestionable. And that's the last, I want to be as civil as possible. I'm a civil person. The people who are here are civil people. But when we're making false equivalencies around children, and when we're talking about the ability for a third party, state agency to make decisions on behalf of parents, civility runs thin. We're doing the best we can.
I understand. Thank you for your comments, and thank you everybody for their comments. But again, no, public comment at this time is over. We have to adhere by public meeting law. We can, anybody who has further questions that might. Anybody who has further questions or discussion, speaking for myself as a committee member, I'll be happy to share my information with anybody, to discuss anything, to answer any questions that you have, and continue to have these discussions and continue to hear concerns from the community tomorrow and the day after and the day after and every single day after that. But I think it's very important to realize, in the spirit of this, that this committee, at our very last meeting, made the choice not to make a motion to mandate masks. Okay? That was the will of this committee. This was the will of this committee up until this very afternoon. This mandate that has come out was not a vote of the Rockland School Committee, to be very clear. So,
It's for the best interest of our kids.
at this point, at this point in our meeting, it's time to move on to the next agenda item. The next agenda item on tonight's agenda is monthly reports. We have monthly reports for June. We have 4 reports that we need to approve. First is administrators, second is guidance, third is nurse, and fourth is pupil personnel services. We'll be entertaining 4 motions.
4 motions.
4 seconds.
We have 4 motions in 4 seconds. All those in favor? That is a vote. Thank you very much to my colleagues. Next up, we have our financial reports for June. We'll be looking for approvals of the school department, the high school student activities, the middle school student activities, and the daycare. I will again be entertaining 4 motions.
4 motions.
We have 4 motions
4 seconds.
and 4 seconds. All those in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is a vote. Next up, we have the newsletter for the summer for Rockland High School. Very informative. I encourage everybody to take a look at it to hear about all the things that are going on in Rockland Public Schools relative to our high school. Next up, under old business, we've already covered COVID protocols this evening, and next is the elementary handbook, and this is the second reading. Dr. Cron, is there anything that you would like to update us on for the elementary school handbook?
Nope, very, very straight ahead. I recommend that we adopt it.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve,
Second.
and we have a second. All those in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is a vote. Next, under new business, we have some surplus equipment. Dr. Cron, is there anything in this that you would like to highlight or anything that you'd like to chat about?
No, sir.
Any questions from the committee about the surplus equipment?
No. Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is a vote. Next up, we have the FY22 contract ratifications for the daycare and the cafeteria. And in just a minute, we'll be looking for 2 motions and 2 votes on this. Dr. Cron, is there anything that you'd like to share with us about this?
No, again, thank you to the cafeteria workers and to our daycare staff and leadership. They do an outstanding job, and I'm very glad that their contracts are ratified.
As am I. We're very blessed to have some wonderful folks, both in our cafeteria and our daycare. And certainly that has been of example in recent months and days, more than really any other time ever. That being said, first we're going to be looking for a motion to approve the cafeteria contract. We'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That's a vote. Next, we'll be looking to entertain a motion to approve the daycare FY22 contract.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That is a vote. Last but not least on tonight's agenda is item 8, public service announcements. We'll start with Dr. Small.
I just want to thank South Shore Hospital for their partnership with the school system for both the vaccination and the testing program that they have in place, and recommend that anyone who has any questions about vaccines speak with their physicians. And that's really all I have. Looking forward to starting the school year next week.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mrs. Hennessy.
I just wanted to welcome the new staff, teachers, aides, to our community. We're happy to have you part of Rockland Public Schools. I hope you enjoy the year, and just wanted to say good luck to all the students, parents, grandparents, anyone who's excited for Monday. I know my kids are excited to be back with their friends. I'm not sure how I'll feel about homework, but hopefully everyone has a good start on Monday. And enjoy the Labor Day long weekend that quickly follows.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hennessy. Mrs. Davidson.
Just to add, I know high school fall sports have started, and good luck, and I hope you have a healthy season. And it was great to meet all the new staff and faculty over the last couple of days, so welcome. And regarding the DESE mask requirements, looking forward to diving into those a little more deeply and reviewing them over the next couple of days with the committee.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Davidson. As for me, I just want to once again thank everybody who came out here tonight. Listen, hearing from you does not make me uncomfortable at all. In fact, this is what it's all about. This is why we're here. We're here to listen to our community, however we feel about any of this. And I'm pleased to be able to hear people's opinions and people's thoughts here tonight. I hope to continue to hear them and have discussions offline after the fact with anybody who might have concerns and questions. But please know that the folks that are sitting up here, to my left, are volunteers. These are people that, when they ran for school committee, had no idea that we'd be dealing with an international pandemic and trying to understand all that comes along with that and all the conflicting information and science and all the things that comes along. But what boils down to it is I can assure you that each and every single one of us are doing things as we see it to be what's very best for our kids. I'll say it again, I have 3 sons that go to school here. Believe me, I want the best for my sons, and I want the best for yours, sons and daughters. And a lot of what was said tonight, as I said, I happen to agree with a lot of what was said tonight. Some I didn't agree with. But it's important to hear you, and I'm glad that we had this open opportunity for people to express their views tonight, and we'll look forward to hearing more about it down the road in the future. Aside from that, I had the opportunity to be at the Welcome Back to School this morning. We had all of our staff together in the auditorium. It was wonderful to see everybody back to work. Where we're talking about masks and all these things, what's really great, I'm excited about, while this isn't ideal in my opinion, I'm really excited that we're going to be back to school full-time. And we want to keep it that way. We want our kids in school every single day. I don't want remote learning. I don't want my kids at home. My kids need to be able to be in school, receiving education, receiving services, and learning to be fine young men in my son's cases. That is all I have for this evening as far as public comments go. So with that, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful night.